And good morning, all of my wonderful, beautiful friends. Thanks for coming along. As you can see, I've got the atmospheric lighting happening here after last week when I did it kind of accidentally. What was I trying to show you? I don't remember. There was some reason I needed to turn the lights off and it looked really cool, so now I've started with the lights off. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to Aboriginal elders and peoples from other communities who may be taking part in this live stream today. So, sorry, what is the time? 10:05, only a few minutes late, so sorry about the late start. I had a doctor's appointment this morning, and the doctor's appointment started a little bit late, and, it's making Steve nap, damn. I've got to grab Steve. I will grab Steve while I'm explaining my late start. So I have just seen a dermatologist, and it appears that it seems likely, at least, not yet confirmed, that I have skin cancer. So I have to go back on Tuesday. I have to go on Tuesday for a biopsy, and then we will know for sure. So hopefully it is just a superficial thing, if it is. And it's one of those situations where I've had a little annoying niggly thing that's been there for months, and it's not really a big problem, like it's not causing me any issues. But when things hang around for months and months and just never go away, I thought it was time to check. And yeah, it's a thing that I've got to be more proactive about, that sort of thing, because it's like I feel embarrassed going to ask about something that I think is going to be nothing, and he's just going to say, oh, don't worry, it's just going to go away by itself. It's you got a pimple or something. Why are you bothering me? And then, so then, when he says, yes, I think that may be skin cancer, it makes it seem not so silly anymore to have gone to see the expert. And that's what... Anyway, enough of that story. I am reattaching Steve into his place of honor where he can look over my shoulder and make sure I'm doing the right thing. So one of the side effects of this thing this morning going off and not being here is that I couldn't do a lot of the setup that I wanted. So today you're going to see me doing things on the fly, which of course is a total change from what normally happens, because I never make things up as I go. Ever. That is so unlike me. Okay. Oh, and it is warm in here. I'm going to hit the aircon, which hopefully will not be too loud and annoying. I'll set the temperature up a little bit so that it's not quite so energetic. Yeah, okay. So now we have Steve in the house. He's back. All right. Chip, watching and catching up at 1.5x looks funny doing Steve that fast. You're not running it at 1.5. This is how fast I do everything. I really am this fast. Yes, sorry, I've seen that there is a whole lot of stuff in the chat and I haven't read any of it, apart from the last couple that are right at the end. I just saw Mr. Fix-It said, better to have nothing checked out than to have nothing be something and found out too late. Yes, absolutely. Brian said, too much Aussie sun? Not likely, because I have not really been outdoors very much, particularly over the last couple of years. It is quite likely to be coming about as a side effect of the Crohn's medication that I was on last year. So, right. What was I doing today? Yes, we were going to look at firmware for the Rack32 and some of the epic work that has been done by Ben and Moyne, and I believe a couple of other people have been contributing to it as well. So they have been doing lots and lots of work while I have been not paying attention. And sorry, I'm just opening a browser window as well. And every time I come back and look at what they've done, they've added a whole heap of stuff. So I'm going to put the latest firmware onto... In fact, this could be quite useful because one of the things that I haven't really done, I have not put enough effort into, is supporting documentation for things like the Rack32. And I know that a few people have bought Rack32s from me, and then it's not always obvious what to do in terms of the software setup, because I don't have a getting started guide yet. I really need to do that. And Chip says, crikey, talk faster again. Yeah, when you're used to hearing me at 1.5 times and then you hear me at my normal slow pace, it probably feels like I am going in slow motion. So what I did have time to do was to grab out a... Where am I? Here. Is that working? Yes, what I did have time to do was grab out the light switch controller prototype, which has got the display on it, and I've got a 24-port version of the breakout there. There is a Rack32 plugged in. This is one of the first ones that I assembled. So it doesn't have the PoE module on it. In fact, I assembled this before I even received the PoE modules. At this point, I didn't even know it would fit. It's got random funky colored LEDs on it. In fact, I think this is the one that I assembled on the live stream, the very first one. So it's got things like purple LEDs because I was just having some fun with it. And Ameko says, I find you talk fast even at 1x. Okay, maybe I should slow down to about 0.8, 0.9. Or maybe it's my accent. It's that Australian accent that makes it hard to understand. And, oh, I just realized, because I'm doing everything off the ATEM, you couldn't see me. Although that's a good thing. Let's go back to this. So what I'm going to do is, maybe I'll start by taking you through, let's go to this and here, and take you through, oh, Mako, yeah, I think there is a pink one on there as well. When I was assembling that particular Rack32, what I did was grab my LED sample pack. Some time ago I ordered like an assorted color sample pack of surface mount LEDs, and it's got all of the exotic colors in it, like pink, purple, jade green, which is a color that I really, really like. In fact, I've since bought an entire reel of jade green LEDs because they look awesome. And I can't remember what else. Orange, some, yeah, just some sort of, some strange and some semi-strange colors. Right. Right. Where am I? Okay. What are we looking at right now? Okay, we're looking at the GitHub repo for Superhouse. So let's have a look at OXRS.io just to refresh memories for people. And rather than jumping straight into just loading the firmware and playing with it, let's look at this a little bit logically. So this is the site for the Open Extensible Rack system, and it has information about building your own control system, or not just controlling, also reading sensors. So things like light switches, it's reading the state of the light switch and then reporting it. And there are sections on here for hardware. Where are we? Docs, hardware. So there are some things on here like input devices, rotary encoder. This is from Bedrock Media Design. There is this rotary encoder, which is really, really cool. And in fact, I have a box right here. This is all going to play into it today. I have right here this box from Bedrock Media Designs, which includes things like, ta-da, there's a rotary encoder, and yeah, we're going to play with that today because I haven't actually connected that up, and it is set up to work with the, I'm totally confused here. There, that's what I want. Yeah, this one, what we're looking at here, this will work with the new firmware, which I have not even tried, so it's going to be quite cool. Get to try out some things. So we've got sections on the side here for hardware. So there are controllers. There is the Rack 32, which is this one that I've got here, and there is the Room 8266 from Austin, and I haven't, Austin, have you fabricated this one yet? Because this is a render. When was it updated? 25th of January, so it's only recently updated. Austin is normally here in the chat, so Austin, perhaps you could give a little update on this. What is the state of this? Because I would be very curious to know. Oh, Thomas said, my mum had skin cancer several times, all benign, hope the same for you. Yeah, thanks. Oh, Chip, that's interesting. As an experiment, I opened another browser and opened your stream a second time, running both at 1.25x until they synchronized. Oh, now here's a way to game the YouTube stats. If all of you open multiple browser tabs, all looking at my stream, it'll look like my stats are really, really high. And we can game the YouTube algorithm. I don't know if that works or not. Probably not. There would be ways of detecting if that was being done. Yeah. So, what was I talking about? Yes. Okay. So we have a couple of different control boards. The ESP8266 based board here that was designed by Austin. We have the ESP32 based board that was designed by me. And then we've got some input devices, input and output devices like the smoke detector board. There's a shield here. This is the Rack 32 KNX shield that Frank designed, and this goes sitting on top of the Rack 32 and gives it a KNX interface. So this is the smoke detector board, once again by Bedrock Media. Oops. So what am I doing? Yes, okay, so the point I'm making is that this ecosystem is growing. We now have a couple of options for the controllers, and we have some different input devices. So we've got these I2C RJ45 breakouts, and what isn't shown on there is that there is now also a 32 port version of this. So this is what I use for my light switch controllers. Oh, that got my attention. Henrik, for is that euros? Can I ask later something about my problem I've got? Of course you can. And the good thing is that we've got heaps of people here in the chat. Oh, Austin, you're here. Very good. We've got heaps of people here in the chat, and many of whom know far more than me. So if you've got questions, this is a good time to bring them up. All right, so we've got the this thing which is used for making light switch things. There's Bedrock's C-bus to RJ45 little adapter things here, and the rotary encoder to RJ45. There's no picture of it there, but I have one of them in this box. There's the rotary encoder itself. Output devices, PWM controller. So Austin has designed this little PWM controller. What is this? Oh, it's a PCA 9685. Yeah, so it's the classic LED driver with a bunch of N-channel MOSFETs. So that's cool for controlling a whole lot of things that you can PWM, like LEDs. And then we've got this DIN relay driver, There's no picture on the site here, but I have one in the box, so I can show you that, and I've shown it on a previous live stream. Input and output devices. There is the smoke detector, and so you can wire smoke detectors into your home automation system, which is really cool. You can use that to do things like trigger events. If smoke is detected, obviously you want some notification to happen, but you can have your home automation system do other smart things like turn on every single light in the house to make it easy for you to find your way out, to get out in a hurry. And also you could do things like have it unlock all of the doors if you've got control of your door locks. So if a smoke detector is triggered, then your house unlocks and you can get out. Yeah, lots of interesting things you can do by integrating smoke detectors with a home automation system. And sensed RJ45, SRJ45 breakout. So it's a breakout connector between this little thing here. So it's a 6-pin 1.5mm JST to RJ45, and the shield I've already shown you. So this is the add-on that goes onto the Rack 32. And there are other things as well. So people have been working on more boards that fit into this whole ecosystem. And what we've got now is a combination of boards that can work together. Oh, Austin said the PWM controller has 2 extra variants now, so the page needs to be updated. Yeah, I need to... Oh, Henrik said, okay, I posted the question in the lighting channel, again in the Discord. All right, I need to get into that channel and have a look. Thanks, Henrik, for posting that. If anyone else happens to be in Discord and in the lighting channel, then feel free to check out Henrik's question. So now what we have is this collection of hardware, and you can combine them. So you can take something like a Rack 32 and combine it with an I2C RJ45 breakout and some of my light switches, and you can have home automation light switches. Or you can combine it with Austin's PWM controller, and then you can have PWM control of lighting, or with the Bedrock relay driver, so James's thing here, and control relays, or the smoke detector, another one of James's designs, and link smoke detectors into your home automation system. So what we need is, we have this collection of hardware. What we need is the corresponding collection of firmware and other bits of software to be able to link all of this together. And that side of it is what Ben and Moin have been working on for a while. And the way this is broken down is that there are a couple of different places that it's stored. So the logical structure of this, if we go to GitHub and OXRS.io, this is the official organization account for the Open Extensible Rack system. And what this has is all of the common libraries and drivers and the specs and the website source code for the OXRS site, which is all maintained through Git as well. And then the idea is that these libraries, things like the OXRS-IO-LCD ESP32 lib, that is a library for controlling the LCD. And then what you can do is, for your own project, if you have an ESP32 based controller, so say someone else designs an equivalent to the Rack 32, maybe with different features or whatever, but they want to be able to interface with the LCD for their own board, they can use this library to interface with it. And there is the API here as a library, and there's an MQTT library here. So the thing is that all of the components that are not specific to a creator or a piece of hardware, go in as part of the OXRS profile. So the OXRS organization on GitHub, and then we don't have too much duplication of effort. So then if you want to develop firmware to run on a specific board, which is really targeted at that board, it can be hosted on your own GitHub account, and then it can reference these libraries or however you want to do it. But the plan is to have all of these as commonly available libraries for other people to draw on. And then within specific, within other, so in this case, so I'm thinking about this from a structural point of view. The idea is that the OXRS project is independent of Superhouse. Even though this is kind of where it originated from, I don't want it to be something that is exclusively a Superhouse thing. And that is why we have people like James and Austin and others who are jumping in and using this. It's because they can be first-class citizens in this project. This is not something that I personally, want to control and own. So the OXRS project is the common project that we can all contribute to, and that acts as the central point for all of our separate efforts, which might be totally independent. We might be competing with each other. We might be collaborating with each other. We're doing both at the same time. And then on the Superhouse GitHub profile or organization, I can have things that are specific to my own things. So, for example, you can see here these repos are named OXRS-SHA for Superhouse Automation, and that's because these repos are specific to my hardware or my projects. Whereas if you look on the OXRS repo, you'll see it's OXRS-IO, and OXRS.io is the URL for the website. So the -IO are all of like the official OXRS repos. And then there's OXRS-SHA, and in fact if we come along to here, where are we, guide? I've got to find it. SKUs. Makers. No, makers is what I want. So you can see here we've got these maker IDs. So IO is OXRS Core. SHA is Superhouse Automation. And then we've got AC for Austin's Creations, BC for Better Corp, BMD for Bedrock Media Designs, Dentistry. Sorry, I hadn't mentioned Dentistries yet. So Den for Dentistries, and FMA for Frank McCallendon. And so what you can do is, these ones are all like core repos. These are all Superhouse specific repos, and then Austin and other people can have their own repos, and we can see who it's associated with. Now, that very roundabout explanation out of the way. So what we can see is there is a library here, which is the IO handler library that is used on the Rack32. Now this one could possibly be centralized. I'm not sure. Anyway, state monitor. So we've got a state monitor firmware. Oh yeah, so you can see here, for example, OXRS SHA Rack32 ESP32 lib. So that is a library specifically for supporting the hardware of the Rack32. And then there might be another one which would, this may even exist, I'm not sure, I haven't looked it up, but there could be one such as OXRS-AC for Austin's Creations, and then dash, and it would be, where are we, docs, hardware, dash room 8266, because that's the name of his board, dash ESP8266-lib, or something like that. Anyway, you get what I mean. It's kind of complicated when there are so many moving parts to this, and there are so many repos, but it's been broken up into these little chunks for logical reasons. It does mean that when you're doing an update though, you've got to update a whole lot of repos on your local copy if you've got checkouts of all of these things. Now that I've confused everybody, where do we get started? So imagine that you have a board like a Room 8266. Actually, Austin, I may have missed it if you answered this question, but I would love to know, this Room 8266, how progressed is this? I think you may have ordered the PCBs, but not yet assembled one yet. Yes. I don't know. So I'm curious to know how far you've got with that. But anyway, in this particular case, I have a Rack 32 sitting here for us to experiment with. And it may even be the one in the photo. Let's see. If we zoom in here, no, I can't tell. It may be this actual unit that's in the photo is the one that I've got in my test setup, because it was the very first one I assembled. Although I thought it's not, because the one in my test rig has the weird coloured LEDs here. Now, okay, so hypothetical scenario, which is not so hypothetical for some people. You have a control board, such as a Rack 32. You have an input board, something like one of these 24-port input boards, and you have a light switch or something that you've plugged into it. What do you run on it? How do you load the firmware onto this? How do you configure it? And those are all the things we're going to play with right now. So, in this particular case, what you would do is go to the I'm going to use this one, the OXRS SHA State Monitor ESP32 firmware. This firmware, there are other firmware options in here as well, but this is what we're going to start with. And I'm going to drop this in the chat. Alright, so this is the firmware that allows you to do things like read inputs, simple inputs like switches, which you would do if you were running a light switch controller, and it supports multi-press and long press and those sorts of things. So this is the sort of thing you'd use if you want to set up light switches in your house. And you can see that there are updates just 4 days ago, 73 commits. It's been busy. Now, you do not have to compile this yourself. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Here's the source for it. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that there is no configuration in here at all, and this is because of work that I think primarily Ben, possibly with Moin's help as well, has done, which is to remove any requirement to have a config file in here. So in my original firmware, I had a config.h, and you would edit that to do things like set your MQTT broker address and all of those sorts of things. But we don't need to do that. It's all configured on the fly and stored in flash memory. So it's only this one file now with no editable configuration. You don't need to change anything at all to suit your setup. You don't have to change it for number of inputs that you have or anything like that. It just works. So what we do is we can grab a release. You can see over on the right here there is a releases section. So if we click on releases, and you can see there's a 391 release, which is the most recent, and there is a zip of the source code, a tar of the source code, and there is a binary that it has been pre-compiled by Ben. So what we can do is just download this binary and load it, stick it onto the Rack 32. Now let's do that. In fact, I've because of my rushing in at the last moment to get ready for this, I'm just going to have to projects, rack 32. Alright, I'm going to move, what am I going to do? What I'm just mentally debating is undoing the things I've already done so I can show you the process, and I think I will. Yes, I think I will. So this is my directory for the rack 32. I will zoomify that so that you can see it more easily. And what'll I do? I'm going to remove, now those, will I? Yes, I will. Okay. Because I don't want to confuse people by showing not the normal way of doing it. What is that? 391, and I've got that one. 428. Yep. Okay. So here's what you do. You go to the Releases tab, and you can see here that there is this binary release. So I'm going to click on that, and it has downloaded it. So that will be in my Downloads folder as OXRS SHA State Monitor ESP32. So just for the sake of keeping everything in one place, I'm in a firmware directory that I work in for this project. So I'm going to do move downloads OXRS SHA State Monitor firmware. What was it? Which one was it? I know ESP32. Oh, I've downloaded it multiple times, but I'm just going to move that into my current location. No such file or directory. What did I do? ESP32.bin. That's what I want. Move that into the current location. All right. So now we have this one, which I just grabbed, which is, this is confusing me because, what? I am really confused. This modification date doesn't seem right. I don't know what's going on here. Let's just plow ahead and hope that it all makes sense. All right, so what I've got is an upload script here, and that was just to save me typing a whole heap of stuff out. So if I cat that upload script, what it's doing is, oh, it's doing that version. Okay. Well, I've already got this one downloaded, so let's just use this one. So what it's doing is calling ESP tool, and in my particular case, this is the path to ESP tool because I'm using the one that came with the Arduino package. It's telling it it's an ESP32, what port it's on, baud rate to use, the reset strategy, writing the flash, and writing this binary to it. So what I can do now is find myself a USB cable. I need to, where is one? There's a USB cable. I have a multitude of USB cables. And you can't see this, it's off camera, but what I'm going to do is plug in that rack 32 that I've got sitting on the bench just here. And it's now powered up. In fact, what I'm going to do also is turn on a bench power supply. I'm just thinking ahead to how I'm going to connect this because I haven't organized things and got the cables and everything in place. So, okay, I can solve that problem later. Yes. Wasn't it the 391? Yes. Okay. So yeah, this 391 here is one that I just renamed to make it clear which is which, because otherwise the .bin files all download with the same name and you can't tell them apart. So what I'm going to do is well, rather than run that, I'm just going to copy and paste this. So this, if you want this, this command, before I run it, I'm going to go back to the OXRS docs. Is it the OXRS docs? No, back to here, come on, back to the firmware repo, and you'll see in the firmware repo it says click here for documentation. That takes you to the OXRS site, which has got a whole lot of information. We'll get to that in just a second. But to do the installation, this command here is what I'm running with a couple of minor changes. The change is the path to ESP tool, because this is just calling it. It could be in a different place depending on your computer. So this just has it listed as esptool.py. But in my case, what I'm doing is calling the path explicitly uses John library blah 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 ESP tool. And the other difference is the name of the binary, because I've renamed the binary to, well, what happened then? I just lost my external monitor temporarily, which, oh, that's annoying. And that means that I've just got to drag this screen back up here and drag this screen back up here. That's better. So what we're doing is, no, I don't want to do that. So what we're doing is just taking this precompiled binary and loading it. So I'm going to hit go on that and see if it does anything useful. Is it working? I don't know. Yes, it is. Okay, so it's now taking that precompiled binary and flashing it onto the rack32. Oh, that's interesting. Detected crystal frequency is 41.01 megahertz, is different to the normalized 40. Okay, that's a bit of an oddity. I've seen that a few times with ESP32 based boards. This particular one has a Vroom 32 module on it, so the crystal will be on the module. That's not something that I put on. Anyway, so what we have now is the rack32 with the latest firmware installed on it, and I've done no configuration other than flash that binary straight onto it. So this is where I need to switch to overhead camera, because what I'm going to do is unplug the USB connection, bring this over here, move James's boards out of the way just for a moment because we'll get back to that. So this rack32 now has that firmware loaded onto it. I just had to unplug it because the USB cable didn't reach over here. It's got the LCD in place and the 24 port I/O board. So now what I need to do is connect this to Ethernet and power it up. And I'm going to, how am I going to power this? I've got a PoE injector over here, but I don't want to use it because it's an 803.2 AF injector, and this doesn't have the module on it yet. So there are a couple of options. I can just plug a cable in the back and power it that way. That's probably the simplest. I'll connect it to my lab power supply. So I will take the Ethernet cable, plug it into the wall. Other end of the Ethernet cable is here. I'm just looking around to see what is on camera. So this is the other end of the Ethernet cable. It's not PoE or anything, it's just a regular cable going straight to the Ethernet switch, no PoE, so it's not powered up. So what I'm going to do is get a lab power supply and plug it in the back here. And for that I need this cable. So I'll plug that into bench supply 2, plug that in there, set bench supply 2 to 12 volts, 2 amps, that'll do, turn it on, and now we have power, as you can see. And now we've got Ethernet. You can see that it's happily connected to Ethernet. You can see the purple LED there blinking away, and we've got power to the RJ45 breakout. You can see power LED is on, we've got network activity, and all of this has happened so far still without any configuration. I just uploaded the 391 release binary and turned it on. Now, if we look over here, it's going to be a little bit tricky to see. There's the Oh, and also the focus is not quite right on the overhead camera. So there is the, in fact, this is worth seeing. I'm going to mess around with the focus and get it so that you can see this clearly. But for that, I need to prop this in a position. I'm going to get it, try and get it dead centered on the camera. And then I'm going to mess around with the camera focus, which means it's going to zoom in there, about there. So the camera has zoomed in massively as a result while I was doing the focus adjust. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll zoom it in. In a moment, it's going to jump back out. So I'm going to zoom it in more again and then fix the focus. Because ideally I want you to be able to see what's on that LCD. But in a moment it'll jump back out and it'll be on maximum. Yeah, so that is now maximum optical zoom, which is why it's shaking around, because even the smallest bumps make it do stuff. So what you can see there is it has connected to the network and it's reporting its internal temperature is what, 26 degrees, 28 degrees. It's rising because the sensor is on the PCB and it is detecting the temperature being generated by the voltage regulator. So that temperature will continue to rise for a little while until it stabilizes. We can see its ID, its MQTT ID. We can see its MAC address and we can see its IP address. You can also see there's a little green symbol next to just to the left. How am I going to point this out to you? You can probably see it, but just there is a little green symbol next to IP showing that it has got an Ethernet connection. In fact, I wonder if that'll update dynamically. I'm just going to unplug the Ethernet cable. Oh yes, look at that. It's all gone away. So we now have no MQTT ID. And we've got a red connection on the IP address. So I'll plug it back in and it updates the display and the status is now green again. Very, very nice. That whole thing is balanced on its back edge at the moment, so it is in severe danger of just falling forwards. Anyway, what we have now is a device that we can that we can connect to. So it's telling us on its display that its IP is 192.168.1.241. And so now if we head back over to the desktop, open a new tab, go to 192, what am I revealing here? 241. So this is the IP address that it was just reporting on its display. Not found. What is going on there? Oh, hang on. Am I going to the right address? Do I need to go to, HTTP maybe? Not secure? Not found. What am I doing wrong? Need the new admin UI. Okay, I will do that. So, okay, let's leave this for a minute. I will come back to that because Ben is just saying, go and use the new admin UI. All right, back in here, in the OXRS site, we're going to take a little detour now and come back to configuring that. So we've got this repo, admin UI web app. And this whole thing is a single HTML file that you can just run on your local computer. Peter says, did I break it again? Yes. Yeah, and Austin says, HTML is no longer embedded. Yeah, it's been separated out into this. And I had totally forgotten about this. So, this is a new thing. What we've got here is index.html. And I'm just going to click on it to open it. And you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. And it loads some external scripts and things. There's some JavaScript that loads into it. I'm not going to go into this because it's not really, how that works is not the point right now, and I would not be able to explain it. I would need someone like Ben to explain it. So what we can do is download this file. In fact, let's just download the file. Where is it? What is happening to me today? How can I not see the download link? Anyway, or you can check it out. You can download from here code. You can download as a zip for the whole thing, and I've already done that. So what I'm going to do is open here, go to File, Open File, because I've already downloaded this, and it'll be in Dropbox, Superhouse. Where am I looking? Projects. I think it's in here. Here we go. Yes. So what you see here is a download basically of that repo, and this is the index.html file. So all I'm going to do is open it in a browser, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So what it's given us is, hang on, I'm going to zoom in on this as well because that's quite hard to read. View. Why couldn't I zoom in? Oh, it's just command, not shift command. All right, zooming in. So what we can do is put in the IP. I'm going to use the IP just to be able to distinguish between multiple devices on the network. 168.1.241 was the IP that it was reporting on its LCD. And then action, we can do things like set up MQTT, edit config, send command, view firmware and system. Let's do view firmware just to verify what we've got on it. Click on it. And so what's happening now, just to explain this for a moment, we've loaded an HTML interface into the browser just off a local file. This is not running off a web server or any remote system. It is purely a local file. And then by putting in the IP address of the device that we've just loaded the firmware onto and selecting the view firmware action, it's now reported back that it is running this firmware, and the short name is state monitor. This is the maker and the version. So we've confirmed that it's now running the 3.9.1 firmware that we just loaded onto it, and we can upload a new binary file from here. So once you've got it on the first time using using ESP tool, the way I was showing you there, you don't need to do that again. Once you've done that, you can upload new firmware. So if there was a new release today, like 3.9.2, I could download it, choose the file, submit it, and I could do an over-the-wire update of the firmware on that device now. So if I had a few devices on my network, I could use this interface to manage them by selecting the device I want to target and then doing different operations on it. But we don't need to update the firmware because we already have 3.9.1 on it. So what else can we do? View firmware. Let's just go to System, see what that does. And this gives us some options to do a factory reset. So it clears everything that's in the flash memory, or just restart it. So I've started from the bottom options, but what we actually really care about are these top ones. Let's go to set up MQTT. Okay. And it says that it is not connected to an MQTT broker. So I'm going to use my local test broker, 68.1.111, which is not authenticated. It's the one I just use for all of my random testing. Standard port, client ID. This has been derived from the MAC address, like the chip address. I don't need a username and password. I'm going to leave a topic prefix and topic suffix off and just click submit. Now, before I do this, before I click submit, let's just flip temporarily to the overhead camera. And you can see there on your screen, it may be very hard to see because it's so small, but you can see there's an entry for MQTT and it has two red dashes next to it, and it's also got its ID showing next to it. So that is what it's going to use to construct its own unique topics that we can talk to it on and get information from it. So, but yeah, take note, there are those two red dashes there next to MQTT. So that shows that it is not, there is no broker configured, it's not connected to anything. So now I'm going to click on submit and we shall see what happens. Well, nothing appears to have changed here because it hasn't like reloaded the page. What it did was just asynchronously send the command to the Rack32 to reconfigure it with this, whoops, where are we? With this broker address. So I'm going to switch back over to the overhead camera now, and you can see now that there are two little green dashes instead of red dashes next to MQTT. And that is now successfully connected to my broker. Now, because I've been kind of long-winded about this and wandering around, you've it's probably sounded rather more complicated than it is. So just to recap, what we did was start with a Rack32 board, and then we downloaded the precompiled binary for the 391 firmware and loaded it using ESP-Tool. And you have to do something like use ESP-Tool initially, because if there's no firmware on the device yet, it's fresh, then you can't do like an over-the-wire or over-the-air update. Then we used the web UI just as a local file, loaded off my computer, pointed it at the IP address of the newly flashed Rack32, and configured it. So we've set it up for MQTT at least. We haven't configured anything else, but we have the broker set up and it is now connected to my broker. So with those steps so far, we're already most of the way there in terms of setting this up to be able to use it. So I wasn't even showing that. All right, back to the desktop. So this is, yeah, let's see what else we can do here. So we've done set up MQTT. Let's have a look at edit command. And also I should point out that I really don't know what I'm doing with this. Failed to load config action. Interesting. Okay, what about send command? Restart. No. Edit config. I'm just going to try reloading this, reconnecting 192.168.1.241. I'm probably doing something totally wrong here. Edit config. No, failed to load config action. All right, I'm going to try oh, sorry, I'm just looking. I've been mostly ignoring chat once again. Outside the box, which is Chip, said, plug an Ethernet device in already. I want to see the display work. Yeah, it is plugged in. All right, I'm going to power cycle this and see if that makes any difference to being able to send the config to it. So, oh, I should have had the overhead view going. So you can see that it's starting up now. I turned off power and plugged it back in. It's now come up once again with the same IP address. It is connected to MQTT. It's not reporting temperature yet. I think it probably just doesn't have, what is going on with that? Maybe it just hasn't reached the time at which it reads the temperature sensor. All right, so I'm going to try this again. Select config, fail to load config action. Let's try one of the other things again that was working before. 241. I should do that to save having to type it again. View firmware. Okay. Now we've got 391, it's still reporting. Let's go to, no, not system. I want to go to set up MQTT. And you can see here that it has remembered the broker configuration and it's reporting that it is connected. So let's go back to edit config again. Failed to load config action. That is strange. All right, let's try a, because this Rack32, I've messed around with it a fair bit. Who knows what is in its flash memory? Let's do a factory reset, hit submit, factory resetting device. I'm just going to switch back to overhead as well so that we can see what's going on. Come on, overhead, and that should be doing a factory reset. There we go. So it's now done a factory reset and it is rebooting. So it's going to come back up and it's now forgotten its MQTT configuration. So we'll see if this has... Yeah, we'll see if this has now allowed us to do useful things with it. So back to here. Let's try connecting again. I'm going to go to View Firmware, select that firmware, go to Setup MQTT, select, and you can see that it's forgotten its MQTT broker because we did a factory reset. Let's just go to Edit Config. No, failed to load config action. Very odd. All right, well, this is going to not be a great demo, but we can still do some things. Let's set MQTT back up again, and I'll put it back to that. Nothing else selected, just the broker. And back on here, MQTT now has two green things next to it. Now, where is the ID? All right. Let's have a look at this. I'm going to do a mosquito sub -h 192.168 to that same host, and the topic, I'm going to be kind of lazy about this. I'm just going to subscribe to everything, and then I'm going to grep for the ID of this device. So what we should now see is anything that is published by the Rack32. And then I'm going to just, what? Oh, I keep forgetting to change. With this particular setup, the monitor that shows me the output of the ATEM is almost behind me. And so it's not visible to me easily. And the result is that I keep forgetting to change cameras because I can't see what you're seeing. All right, I'm just going to hit the reset button on this. So I'm just resetting the Rack32. And then after it's rebooted, hopefully we'll see it publish something to the broker. Okay, it's just finished booting. Why are we not getting anything coming up on the broker? It says it's connected. Could it be case sensitivity? Maybe. I would have thought that it would be using the case that it was reporting. I don't know. Oh, Ben said, could you have a look in your Chrome Dev Console to see if there is anything useful in there? All right, so I guess back in here, and where do I get to the Chrome Dev Console? That's CodeBender extensions. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, Chrome Dev Console. Isn't there a like just a URL shortcut for that? Chrome : something when trying to load the config page. Okay. That's getting ahead of yourself. Chip says lunch in less than an hour. Okay. F12. I don't think that works on a Mac. Maybe. Let's see. I'm going to switch to function key, F12. Oh, it does too. It does. Thanks, Austin. All right. What was I trying to do? I was trying to select edit config and select. Failed to load action. Console. Here we go. All right. Failed to load. I'm going to get my own face out of the way here because it is not helping the situation. It is hiding these errors. So, what have we got? Failed to load resource. Error connection refused from .241 API config. And that is Hang on, Peter's gone? Peter is gone. Has Peter Lawler gone? Oh, I think Peter, yeah, he might have had something else that he was doing. Yeah, so we're getting a connection refused on 241/API/config. That is what's going on, Ben. So try that URL in your browser. Good idea. Let's open a new tab and see what loads. We get nothing. All right. Connection refused. Let's try. Yeah, that's the same thing. It's just repeating it. Open a new tab. Nothing. Yeah, outside the box is the stand-in for Peter. So this little debugging session is something that should probably be done offline, or not on. Try API adopt. Ooh, interesting. Okay, let's try 192.11 API adopt. Was not found. Oh, hang on. Did I get 1241? Oh, am I doing the? I didn't do the correct IP address. I did the IP for the broker. All right. So now, is this going to be leaking information? No, it's not leaking. No, it doesn't have Wi-Fi configured or anything. Yes. Now, if I do. What am I looking for? I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. HTTP JSON schema, blah. I don't know if you can read that, Ben. Let's see if I can. Oh, Peter says, I'm here now, lunch soon. Yes. Okay. What do we have? Okay, a whole bunch of stuff. You can probably understand that much more than I can. I've never seen this before. So it was in the terminal. It was 0.241. Yep. Chucking it in a JSON formatter. Okay. Let's do that. JSON formatter and validator. Let's stick it in here and process. All right. Well, it says it's valid. That's a start. Is that a? What I was wanting was full screen. Okay. That's a fake Peter. Peter Lawyer? Peter Lawyer. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the shenanigans going on in the chat between Chip and Peter. Right. So, what am I looking for here, Ben? So we've got config schema, blah, firmware. We've got inputs, 1 to 96. That is a good sign. I think that means that it has detected the MCP 230117s, and it knows that I've got a 24 port input board because it's detected there are 96 possible inputs. Okay, so button contact, these are all the types that you can have. Temperature update in seconds is options, defaults to 60 seconds. LCD brightness, brightness percent. So these are all different things that can be configured. And yeah, so why API config is not working? Yes, odd. Wonder if there's, I'm just thinking through what could be strange about my network that is causing this to happen. So, I'll leave that formatter there for now. And what will we do next? I don't know. So what I was hoping to show you here was the edit config, because what you can do from here is change things like the input types. So you can have just a button input, like a momentary button input, or you can have a toggle switch input. In fact, if we go back to the JSON formatter that we had just opened here a moment ago, you can see here all of the different options. So we can configure a particular input to be rotary or a security sensor, like an infrared motion detector or something. It can be a toggle mode, it can be contact type. So yeah, there are these different input types that it supports. So what we can do is plug in one of James's rotary encoders and set the input type to rotary, and then read the values. So Stephen says, have you tried the classic IT problem fix of turning it off and on again? Actually, yes, I have. I did the factory reset and I've done a power cycle, so I've done that. Oh, Henrik said, can you check my thing in the Discord then if it's possible, otherwise the time runs out. Okay, so I'm going to take a slight detour from this and have a look at Henrik's problem. But that means I've got to launch Discord, which means it's going to have about 53 updates to apply. James says I joined at the right time. We may not be able to demonstrate your encoder. So yes, I was showing your stuff on screen and the encoder and things that you sent me earlier. And where I was just getting to was setting up the Rack32 so that we could plug it in and see it, but I'm having trouble with the Rack32 firmware. So what I'm doing is I'm going to have a look at Henrik's question in the lighting channel, which may or may not be related to this. I don't know. Oh, there. Oh, it's notification city when I open Discord. Oh, it's just like there's a little red box and a number next to every single channel. All right, where are we? Lighting. Where is the lighting channel? And once I get to this point, I will bring it up on screen. Lighting. Okay. Just auditing. Where is Henrik's question? Is Henrik just auditing on Discord? Henrik, what is your ID? So I'm going to bring Discord up on screen, which is probably a really, really bad idea. So any 555p heats up and burns out. Right. Oh, Maina. Is Maina Henrik? I'm not sure. Oh, I'm the Maina. Yes, okay. So Maina is Henrik. It's easy EDA. All right, I'm going to open this, but I don't want to get too sidetracked from showing the Rack32 thing, because that's what, where are we? Let's open this sheet. I'm not really open in editor, okay. I'm not really that familiar with easy EDA, so this could be quite painful. How do we zoom in on that? Oh, is that adding a sheet or is that zooming? How do I zoom? Oh, up there, there's zoom. All right. So it looks like Henrik's problem is that this overheats and burns out the 555. All right, I will leave that open and come back to it. Henrik, I'd really like to look into this, but I also do not want to get too sidetracked from this, because the purpose of this particular live stream was to go through the firmware and the setup on the Rack32. All right, David T says, was the flash fully erased? That's a very good question. i.e. ESP tool blah erase flash. Let's try that, which means I'm going to have to unplug. Yeah, I did do the factory reset, and I think the factory reset does erase flash, but it is probably worth just trying the ESP tool factory reset, and like the ESP tool erase flash, and then load the firmware again, just to see if we've got a totally clean start. Now, where was I? Back to here. Let's get rid of that. So this is what I did as the upload. So I'm going to get rid of all of that. Do I need flash size? I don't know. Flash. I'm just going to get rid of all of that. Before default reset board, leave everything, and I'm going to do a erase flash. Is that all I need? I don't know if I need any other arguments or not. I can't remember. Erasing flash. Yes, cool. So what I should also do is make absolutely sure that I have the correct binary. It was reporting 391 though, wasn't it? So I'm pretty sure I had the right one. Yes. Yeah, I'll then just confirm factory reset should be fine. It wipes spiffs, which is where all the config is stored. Yeah, but worth trying. All right, so now we have done a total wipe on the flash. So now if I go back to the upload, which is this one, and we've got the 391 binary, I will do the upload on that. And this way we should be confident that we have a clean device. So flash has been erased, we've uploaded the binary. So now I am going to unplug USB. Once again, I am back here with the device unplugged. I'm going to plug in Ethernet because we kind of want that. I'm going to turn off my lab power supply before I plug it in. So I'll plug in the lab supply, and then I'm going to set it up back where you can see the display before I turn it on. All right, so here we go. This is powering it on, totally clean from scratch. Turn on the power, and after a moment we should see the LCD come to life. Come on. Wakey wakey. That's interesting. What is going on? Maybe I've got some hardware problem that is causing all of this to be an issue. So as you can see, it's powered up. Or if I get it across far enough, we don't have Ethernet yet. This rack 32 has not started. I'm just going to try pressing the reset button. And we've got power, we've got nothing else. I am kind of tempted to go and grab a new board because I don't know what's going on here. It's kind of a mystery. Right, I'm just going to unplug Ethernet, turn off the power. And yes, I know the focus is all messed up there because it's set up for having it zoomed way in on the LCD. All right. I'm going to hold it kind of there, turn power back on again, and just do a boot with no Ethernet. And I don't think this is initializing properly. There is something strange going on with this. Okay. It's pulling about 100 milliamps, which is what I would expect at this point. But let us, what have I got? I've got another, what is this rack 32 doing sitting here? I've got no idea what state this one's in. It was just a random one that was sitting on my bench. Oh, it's got, actually this one might have a problem. I suspect it does. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to switch that and that, and I'm going to go for a little walk. But first, a tasty beverage. I'm going to go for a little walk into my garage, which is where I have all the boxes of stock, different bits and pieces, and find a Rack 32. Here's one. Now these ones have been fully tested. This is one that is all packaged, ready to go, fully tested, and I'm gonna try this one. So I'll take it out of its packaging, take it out carefully so I don't waste the card. And maybe it's time for me to replace my my hacky test device. Power off, unplug that, get it out of the way. Alright, so I've just pulled this out of its bag. It's a brand new one, and it also has the PoE regulator on it, which means that we would be able to do 802.3 PoE if we wanted to. But for now, what I'm going to do is just plug in the LCD. Unfortunately, you can't see this very easily, but once I've got it all sorted, I'll let you see what's going on. And what else am I going to plug in? Let's plug in... do I have a power LED here handy? Yes, I do. So I'll plug in a power LED, just because. And PoE bypass is not in place. That's good. Don't think there's anything much else I need to do. So, oh, but I do need to bring it down next to where I can reach it with the USB cable. Whole lot of stuff happening that you can't see, unfortunately. All right, now, what I have done so far is I've got a brand new Rack 32, plugged it in, and it is, what is it going to do? If I power it up, I think I've got the three, I had these preloaded with one of the releases of firmware. So in fact, before I do anything else, let's just power it up, connect it to Ethernet, and see if we can, what's it reporting? 391, yeah, it's reporting. I already had the 391 firmware loaded onto this. So in fact, what I'm going to do is disconnect USB, bring it back over here, plug it into Ethernet, and plug it into power. All right, I'm going to do a dodgy thing to try to. This is terrible live stream. Trying to get this set up so that you can see what's going on. I want overhead. Where's the camera position? There. Okay, and I'll get the LCD into position. Now, we're back where we were a few minutes ago, except that we have a totally new Rack 32 in place. I'm just going to turn on the power. Let's see what happens. So it powers up, it says starting up. It's reporting version 3.9.1. And it's got a different IP address because the MAC address is different. So my DHCP broker has given it a DHCP server. I'm so used to calling things brokers now. Oh, and you can see the display just went dim. That's because it's got like a power saving, like a screen saving mode where it's bright after activity and then it goes dimmer after a configurable time. So this one has the IP of .138. So back to our management interface, and let's try connecting to 138 instead, and we want to do, oh, what? I wonder if this is a problem. Yeah, it just said connection refused again. I wonder if this is a problem with my local copy of this thing here. I wonder if this is not up to date. Maybe that's been the problem all along. Very weird. Okay, edit config, let's say view firmware. So it's loading 391, yes. System, restart, factory reset. I won't bother with that. Set up MQTT. There is no broker connected. I'm going to put in my broker address again. This feels to me like there is some problem that is external to the Rack32. It's not that device, it's something to do with my network, or I don't know. And submit. And now if we go back to the overhead view, we can see that it's now connected to MQTT. All right. Mako says, the guy getting the opened bag Rack32 gets a reduction. Should get a reduction on every one of my devices. So maybe I should charge extra for additional testing. Yeah, this send command, restart, edit config, select, failed to load. All right, now I'll just do like a shift refresh on this page to load this again. Put in this IP address again, 168.1.1. Could it? A weird thought just went through my head, but I'm going to ignore it for now. So 138 and view firmware. Okay, select view firmware. And yes, we can connect to it. Now let's just try edit again, failed to load. All right, I am sure this is not the problem, but I have seen weirder things. So let's try this. No, it doesn't work. All right. Scott says sign the board with a Sharpie and sell it as a signed edition. Maybe I could sign every single one of them and tell everyone that it's the only one that's signed. It's an edition 1 of 1 signature series. Yeah, I could sign it with a gold. I've got a gold paint pen here that I use for marking boards, so I could sign it with a gold paint pen. I don't want to sign it though until I figure out what's going on here. Why can't I load this? Not corrosive, I hope. Oh, interesting question. I've never thought about whether a paint pen is corrosive. Take a photo and sell it as an NFT. Take a screenshot of this. I can, yeah. Sign each one with a different color, so they are 1 of 1. I'm kind of spinning my wheels a bit here because I am stumped by this, and it is Ben Jones. Yeah, why can't you access API config? That is what that page is getting. Yeah, that's the fundamental question. So what is happening when I select edit config here and then hit select? It says failed to load config action. What's happening behind the scenes is that it is trying to access that device, so I'll put that in, /API/config, because all the calls go to the API and it's the config endpoint, and it gets nothing. So if I yeah, and you can see on this one, this was from the previous Rack32.241, it was API adopt. And this is what was reported. So if I go to, instead of config, if I go to adopt, we will get a chunk of JSON similar to what we got for 241. So you can see that this endpoint on the API I can reach, but if I go for config, I can't reach it. That is the bizarre thing. Oh, we can't see. I've got to do something about getting my ATEM monitor up in front of me so I can see what's going on. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes. Yes. All right, a very quick recap because you couldn't see what I was doing. On 241, yes, so what Ben was suggesting was, I'll just redo this. When I have this page open, it's got that as the target device, and then this drop down here is saying what endpoint we want to hit on the API. So if I go to edit config, what it should be loading there is that IP address /API/config, but that's not loading. But if I go to API/adopt, it does load, and we get this chunk of JSON. So what should be happening is that on API config, we should also be getting something coming back from it, and it'll be reporting stuff. Oh, but why is it not? Ben, is there another endpoint that I can test? So what, where are we? Let's just get rid of a couple of these old things. All right, so if I go to, for example, view firmware and select, that will be doing a call to a different endpoint, I think. Now anything on serial? Oh, good question. So to be able to check that, I'm going to have to, what can reach? I can move this. Can I reach USB at the same time as that? I think I can. It's a bit of a stretch, but I'll get USB plugged in there, and I will bring up a serial console and we'll see what's happening. Oh, I need another drink. All right. Now, Deputy Lunch Monitor. No, Deputy is not a bot. Deputy is... no. Deputy is chip under an alternate ID. Now, although you probably don't know who I mean when I say chip. Chip is normally under another ID. All right, sorry, it's off screen. I am gonna get a, oh, that's interesting. Look what's going on here. This is the serial console. Flash read error. Hang on, I'm gonna hit reset on that. That is really weird. It's just reporting the flash read error, but it's booted and I can see the screen. You can't see it, as in I can see the LCD. So we are getting flash read errors coming up. Odd. Now I've lost my chat window, which means that I can't see anything that Ben might be telling me. Got to clear a whole bunch of things out of the way. ESP crash and burn, yeah. Reflash the ESP with a slower baud rate. That shouldn't. The baud rate that it's flashed at shouldn't make any difference, should it? Surely not, because it does a, yeah, okay, because it does, can I make that narrower? Yes, I can. All right, I'm going to get this over here, and I'm going to bring this window in so that we can see the serial console at the same time. Get rid of that, and I'm going to go to System, Select, Factory Reset, because what I want to be able to do is see what's in the console at the same time as I do a factory reset. Submit. Yeah, sorry, I'm mentally just going back to oh, is that the right port? That's a very good question. What else do I have plugged in? All right, I'm going to hold down. Oh, so slight detour, but I should resolve this. So Deputy Lunch Monitor said, a long time ago, my friends called me Chip and I stopped using it, but Jono still does. Would you prefer if I stopped calling you that? If I'm using something that you would prefer me not to, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, so just to explain what's going on right now on the screen. I have cleared the output from the serial monitor and I'm holding the reset button on the rack 32. Oh! Oh, this is stupid. This is totally stupid. I had the USB cable plugged into the wrong rack 32. We were looking at two different devices. Because I've got the two of them cobbled together with cables sort of linking between them. Oh, that is just ridiculous. All right, it doesn't solve the fundamental problem, but okay. So now it's the same device, USB serial 0001, but now we're looking at the correct device at least. Okay, so let's go back into here. Set up MQTT. I'm going to do this just because I want to see the thing go through on the console. Yeah, and the thing is, I've been, hang on, submit this. MQTT connected. Okay, now getting back to this thing about Longflare and Chip. So I have made mistakes in the past, as people here know, about using people's names incorrectly or publicly when they wanted their real name kept private and just going by a like a pseudonym or some abbreviated version of their name in public. So okay. So Deputy Lunch Monitor has just said what his real name is. That's okay. So that means that I can use the real name. So Deputy Lunch Monitor said, my real name is Crispian. It doesn't matter, just don't call me late for lunch. Okay. I will, so these days I try to be careful about referring to people in the way that they want to be referred to in public, so that I don't dox anyone, like reveal their identity when they don't want it revealed and that sort of thing. So I have known Deputy Lunch Monitor since we were, I don't know, like 16 years old or something. And so I've just been referring to him as Chip because I didn't know whether he wanted his real name revealed. But yeah, if Crispian is how you is what you're more comfortable with, that's great. I will amend my the way I refer to you. So what were we doing? That's right. MQTT connected. Now back to here. So this is the thing. Let's try the big test. Go to edit config, hit select, and see what comes up. Nothing comes up in the console, is the answer to the question that Ben asked ages ago, and then I screwed up trying to find the answer to. Yeah. Right. Oh yes, that's the other thing. So many of you here will know Xeon, or Unexpected Maker, and Xeon and Crispian also knew each other from many years ago. So it's yeah, there are multiple there are multiple personal connections there. So where am I? We're at MQTT connected. So what is going on with yeah, so Ben says, okay, so it looks like the request isn't even hitting the device, because if it was, what we should be seeing is a report in the serial console here. So let me just go to something else. Like if I go to view firmware and select, oh, we don't get anything in the console there, but we do get a response. If I go to system, select, I'm just going to do a restart, and we see the events here. So what we've got is it's booting up, it's telling us what firmware it's got loaded, what version it's loaded. It's found a 24-port RJ45 breakout, logo loaded from progmem, it's got its MAC address, its IP address, and connected to MQTT. So if I go instead to set up MQTT and select, okay, no, it doesn't actually report the event of loading that when the endpoint has been hit. If I go send command, select, restart, that's the only one that's available there. Oh, what? Look at this! Look at this! All I did then was select the same thing as I've done before, and it worked. Well, now we can move ahead with playing around with things. Okay, so I have zero idea why that had happened. Let's try. I don't want to do. I kind of don't want to move away from this now. But let's just go to set up MQTT again. Select. It says it's connected to the broker. It's got the address configured. Now if I go to edit config, select, failed to load config action. What if I go to send command, select, okay, now back to edit config, select, failed to load config action. And now I can't get back to it again. You all saw it though, didn't you? I wasn't like going mad or anything. The config did actually come up. Yes. Yeah. Oh, Mike said, if I recall correctly, that's the first time you've done a plain reset. Yeah, that was yeah, as the first option after a reboot. Let's try that. So let's go to system and then restart, and we will let it do its thing. So it's getting its IP address. Eventually, there we go, it's got its IP address. And now if I go to edit config, it loads. That is odd. Okay. But maybe now there's a little bit more information that we can use for diagnosing what's going on there. Okay. Here we go. So now we've got default input type. I'm not going to move away from this page now. I'm just going to make some changes and see what happens. So default input type, button, contact press, rotary, security switch, and toggle. And also, just while I'm thinking of it, you may have noticed that with this this extra Rack32 that I took out of the package and plugged in, I have not done a firmware upload on it. I plugged it in and it came up with a 391 firmware. That is because for the last batch of Rack32s that I assembled and flashed only a couple of days ago, they're on the online store right now, they have all been preloaded with the 391 firmware, which means that if you plug it in out of the box, you should be able to connect a light switch breakout and an LCD and plug in Ethernet, and it should just connect to your network, and you should be able to configure it like this, the way I've been showing you. Yes, although it's weird that we've been having this problem loading the config interface. Alright, so default input type. Let's just set the default input type to button. I actually don't know the difference between button, press, and switch. So I need to I need to learn more about this. So button, okay, inputs. Oh, temperature update interval. So this is how often it reports. Let's have a look at... Oh, one thing that would be useful to report in the serial console as well is the ID that it's using for where are we? Back to here. It's going to be a different ID. So what is the ID on this one? It is reporting 1B07. So let's go 1B07. And we'll see if we get anything reported to MQTT. Because what it should be doing is reporting its temperature and other things at the default interval. I'm going to, let's do some rearranging here. I'm going to stick that in that corner. I'll try sticking this in, in that corner. And I will move this to be that half of the screen. Okay, so that's actually kind of a useful setup. Now, inputs. Oh yeah, so what I was going to do was look at temperature update interval. Let's set that to 10 seconds. The weird thing is that it looks like we're not getting an actual MQTT report in here. This has been running for more than 60 seconds and we don't have a report. So I'll change that to 10. I'm not going to let you change any of those. I'll just submit. It says successfully updated your device. I didn't see anything reported in the serial console. Hopefully it did actually update. But what we should be getting now is temperature reports every 10 seconds. And I don't think we're getting any temperature reports. So 32.5 degrees C it's reporting on the LCD. And, oh, add minus V, yeah. Oh, of course. Ah, thanks, Ben. So, yeah, now it makes sense. Let's make that a bit smaller again because we need to be able to see. That was a total brain fart. So, what I was grepping for was part of the topic, and because I didn't have minus V, it meant that it was not reporting the topic in the output, which meant, of course, we never saw anything. Oh, I've been winning at everything today. Oh, see, I stuff up something like every 3 minutes, so if I can figure this out, then you can too. Now, what was I doing? That's right, I'm going to change this back to... well, the interesting thing is that that should be reporting every 10 seconds. Oh, okay, it is. I think it just hadn't scrolled to the end. Let's just set that back to 60-second updates and save. Not that that really matters. Inputs, plus. All right, what options do we have here? Index. Let's make for the first one, and a type I'm going to make rotary, and then save. Successfully updated. Okay, so hopefully what this means is that I have a rotary input. On where am I going? That's right. I was going to grab the box of Bedrock Media fun bits and pieces again. And what do I have here? Rotary and C-bus to RJ45 and C-bus slave to RJ45. No, I want this. I know you can't see what I'm doing right now. Rotary encoder goes to there, and in fact, maybe what I should do is switch to the overhead camera so that you can see what I'm doing, because there's not much point trying to do stuff without explaining it. Where's the camera? There it is. Okay. Focus is set rather high because we had it set up for the LCD. So what we've got now is this little board that James designed, and this can be connected to the light switch controller via an APHC or Ethernet cable, and then you can plug other things into it. And what I've got plugged in is the rotary encoder. So as I understand it, I have not actually done this. I should be able to plug this in to the other board. Now that means I need myself another Ethernet cable, and I don't know how many more I have in here. I have multiple boxes of Ethernet cables out in the garage. I might have to go and grab one because I think I'm short of cables in here. I only have a couple. Ah, great. Everything's in the way. We had to move a whole lot of furniture over the last couple of days because our verandas have all been stripped back to bare timber and are being stained and all that sort of thing again. And we had some outdoor furniture sitting out on the veranda, and that has now all had to be moved into the garage, which means that, sorry, I'm trying to talk and do stuff at the same time. Which means that everything from the veranda has had to be moved into the garage. Aha, found one. Actually found about 100. I've got a very big tub full of Ethernet cables there. So the garage is even more jam-packed with random stuff than it is normally. Now I've got a cable that I should be able to plug into the breakout, and then over here plug this end in, and let's see if I let the smoke out. It doesn't appear to have let any smoke out. So what should be happening here? I don't know. Now what we should have is power going to this device. We should be getting 12 volts down to it. Now I've got to pause for a moment and think about what it is that I'm doing. All right, we have rotary encoder plugged into this breakout. I'm not sure if there's anything I should be doing with this breakout in particular. Because I've never actually done this before, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I've got it plugged into rotary encoder 1. Oops, rotary encoder 1. Then I've got an Ethernet cable which goes along the bench, and it goes to, let's switch back to here momentarily. It comes back into the breakout, which is on the bench, which goes to the rack 32, so that the rack 32 should be able now to talk to the craziness on Discord. What? Oh, I need 2 data lines per encoder. Yep. All right, so how do I do that? Index 1 type rotary. And so if I do index 2, also type rotary, what does that do? No idea. Is that what I should have done? I don't know. Oh, hang on. Event single. Ah, okay. So it is now reading. Let's switch back to this view. So what you can see there in the up in the top right corner, it's got port 1, channel 3, and you can see these event types single. When I press the rotary encoder, I just pressed it, we got an event type single. I'm going to press it quickly twice. Oh, just got a single again. No, it's not detecting a double. I'll try a triple press. Didn't detect that. I wonder if it's the rate at which I'm doing it. I don't know. Anyway, it's not reporting spinning the rotary encoder. So I probably just don't have it configured properly. Oh, it needs to be index 3 and 4 set to rotary. Cool, that makes sense. So what we'll do is I will set index 1 to button. And hang on, what happens if I do a plus here? Can I set multiples? Yes, I can. Okay, so I'll set index 2 to button, and then I will set index 3 to rotary, and index 4 to rotary, and save. All right. Now let's see what happens. So if I twiddle the encoder, do I get anything coming through? No. If I click it, I get port 1. Oh, now it's detecting single and double and triple presses. So that's fixed the button detection. But if I spin the encoder, which I'm doing right now, it is still not reporting anything. I don't even know if it's meant to be reporting anything. Now there was something saying please check the orange something in Discord. What is going on in Discord? Let's go back into here. The orange, where was that thing? There was a comment about checking Discord again. I've lost it. I can't find it. Okay. Oh, right, okay. Okay, made a comment, but it was not directed at me. I feel like my brain just has not been functional properly today at all. So let's just get Discord out of the way, and I will try to ignore it. Except that, yes, Henrik, I will come back and look at that 555 problem. And yeah, but I'm not going to do it on the live stream now. I will follow that up. I think this afternoon, I'll go and have lunch, and then I'll have a look at your 555 circuit. So hopefully that's something fairly straightforward, and we can figure out what's going on with it. Oh, Mako says no dark Discord. No, I've got Discord set just in default mode. I'm not really quite sure what everybody's obsession with dark mode is. Most of the time I don't like it. There are some things where I do like it. Oh, James just said to check private Discord chat. Cool, where is that? James. Okay. Let's check private Discord chat. Okay. On the back of the rotary coder there are 4 Okay, so what I needed to do was replace a couple of the resistors with something. So it's got some 10k resistors, need to be replaced with something 1k or smaller in order to pull a signal to ground. Okay. So the reason that this is not working is that I needed to do some preparation first, and I am totally unprepared. So, yes. Alright, so on the back of the rotary encoder, there are 4x10k resistors. The two most outside ones are 10k pull-ups, and the two inner ones are 10k in series with the data signals. So these need to be replaced with something 1k or smaller. Now, I am going to continue for a little bit longer because I would like to see this work. And James is right here helping me figure it out. So, or giving me the answer, because he's got like the teacher's version of the textbook with all the answers written in it. So I am just the student trying to figure out what is going on. All right, so these need to be replaced with something 1k or smaller in order to pull the signal to ground. Yes, let's do that. Let's stick in a couple of low value resistors. So first though, I'm going to disconnect the I've got to do a few changes here to get this all sorted. What else have I got to do? I've got to turn on the soldering iron. Although I'm going to change the tip because I had a really big chisel tip on it because I was doing some large connectors. I need to unplug this. I'm going to change to the microscope view. Where is the remote control for my HDMI switcher? Let's try that. Is that working? Yes. Okay. So we have. Is it working? I can't actually tell. No. Come on. Where is microscope view? There is microscope view, and then I can switch to that, and then we're getting there. We're getting in business. So on the back of the board, no, not on the back of the board. Where are these resistors? Am I even looking? Oh, on the back of this board. I see. Yes, cool. Here we go. So this is the back of the rotary encoder board, and we can see there are 4 resistors there, and looking at the numbers on them, they all say 103, which is a 10k resistor. So in the chat, what James said is the two most outside ones are 10k pull-ups, the two inner ones are 10k in series with the data signal. So I need to put some low value resistors in series with the ones that go into the, so all right, here we go. A little bit of quick surgery on this. I could just tack extra resistors on top of these and leave these ones in place, but let's just take them off. The inner ones, remove those two. And then I need to put low value resistors into those spots. So James said 100R is a good value. What have I got here? It should, basically anything 1k or below should be fine. So I've got my resistor kit here. What have I got? Let's, I've got heaps of 100 ohms. So let's chuck some of those in there. But I want to, it's kind of awkward because you see it's got the rotary encoder here on the other side of the PCB, and I want to change these resistors, but it means sitting it on the end of the rotary encoder to get it to stand up. So how am I going to do this? I need a way of supporting it. Oh, maybe just a pair of pliers might be the simplest thing. Pair of pliers under there, open the jaws and sit this in it, and that might work as a holder. I'm going to rotate it a bit so that I can get to one end of the resistor. All right, here we go. Let's grab ourselves a 100 ohm resistor. Just got to turn it around, stick it on there, and then while I've got this same angle, I'm going to stick one on the other pad as well. So put one on here, then I'll turn this all the way around just for my own convenience. Need to bring this in a bit. There we go. And come on there and on there. So now we have 10k resistors on the outside, which are the bias resistors, and we have 100 ohm resistors in the middle, which are the series resistors. And let's try this again. Get that out of the way. Back to the overhead camera. So I've now modified this. I'll plug it back in on rotary encoder 1. I'll plug it back in here. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the desktop view, because this is where we see the output. Now let's just see if we get anything. This is a moment of truth. Oh, look at that. Oh, so cool. I'm rotating it. So if I rotate it to the right, we get rotary event up. And if I rotate it to the left, we get rotary event down. So if I just move it a tiny bit, we get a single thing. And if I spin it, I'm spinning it backwards and forwards now, you can see we're getting lots and lots of events. So we have success. Nice. James, thanks for telling me how to solve that problem. Alrighty. Yes, palindromic resistor markings. It was a 101 resistor. A 1 and a 0, and then how many zeros do we want to add? 1. So it's a 101. A 101 is a 100. Yes, and Ben, thank you for your help as well. So where am I? Okay. Well, I'm glad that I did go ahead with making the resistor change, because it only took a moment and now we have success. So you can see here we've got the temperature being reported, and if I press the button in the middle of this encoder, I get a single button event on port 1 channel 2. If I turn it to the right, I get port 1 channel 4 event up. If I turn it to the left, I get port 1 channel 4 event down. So this could be used, for example, for setting a set point on a temperature sensor, or on a controller for temperature. You could have a display that shows what your current temperature setting is, and then you could turn it to the right to turn it up, turn it to the left to turn it down, press the button to set, or something. Or it could be for a menu selection, or it could be for a dimming control. Like you could have it connected to dimmable lights and control the dimming by turning the knob, or just turn it on and off by pressing the button. All sorts of things you can do. So it's very cool having a rotary encoder type input that we can run now into the light switch controllers. Dodgy said, why channel 4 and not 3? Okay, that is because the way the rotary encoder works, it's actually using 2 data lines, and those lines are pulsing as the encoder is being turned, but it's only reporting the second of the 2 lines. So it's actually using data lines 3 and 4 out of the port, but it's just reporting the event as being on channel 4. So that's why. Yeah, Ben said always reports events to the highest index. Yeah. Austin says, use the rotary with amplify whole home audio. Yeah. Multi-click that button or hold. Yes. Okay. That's a good point. Stephen W. says, the brilliance of a rotary encoder is that children can infinitely spin it without breaking it. Yeah, so just pressing it, I can do a single click. There's a double click. There's a triple click. Let's just keep going. That's a quad click, so I did it 4 times. And now I'm going to have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a pentaclick. I don't think it does 6 though. I think it does up to 5 presses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it reports it as a 5 press. Now press and hold, and it's up, hold. Oh no, the up was just because I think I accidentally, I bumped the encoder while I was pressing it. So I'm just going to press and hold, and it's reporting hold, and reporting, how often is that? Like 2 times a second, something like that. And then if I let go, it stops reporting the hold. So you can also do hold detection as well. Yes, nice. Right. Oh, James says, I've also designed a housing for the iconic faceplates and an encoder knob. Let's, I do have more of James's stuff here. Let's see, where did I put that box? I had it right here. Okay. Before I sign off for the live stream, what I'm going to do is, oh, James has just put a picture in in the private chat in Discord. So where am I? There? Is that what I'm looking at? Yes, it is. Okay. So this is one of James's modified faceplates. So you can see this is a Clipsal faceplate, and this is the connection that comes out. So we've got this breakout that has the rotary encoder plugged into it. And we have this, which is one of his buttons as well, that we can plug into it. We've got this that we can plug into it. Let's plug this one in. So this I'm going to plug into, what am I going to plug it into? Switch 1. Switch 1. And this is also an opportunity to show off one of the other features of James's little breakout. So this light switch, if I press this, you can't see that because I don't have the right thing showing, but if I go back to desktop view and I now press this this wall plate, this button that I plugged in, if I press it once, we get a single, and I can get a double and triple press. So I'm pressing on this illuminated wall plate, and the little jumper on here I think changes color. Now if I unplug this jumper, I've got to bring this up into focus. So this jumper that I pulled off the breakout, you can see that the wall plate is no longer illuminated. It was illuminated blue if it's plugged in here. Now if I move the jumper across and plug it in here, you can see that it's now illuminated this sort of reddish orange color. It's to my eye it kind of looks red. It looks just slightly different on camera to what I can see. So you can select the color of your switches by changing the jumper on this breakout. So with this breakout, we now have this button, we've got the rotary encoder, and we've got spots where we could plug other things in. Let's just plug something else in for the fun of it. Switch to, what is that? That rotary encoder 2. So we can plug in 2 encoders and 2 switches, and then you could have them mounted in the same wall plate. There we go. So there's another one of these little things that you can use, and once again you can't see it. I'm pressing the button, and what's actually happening in MQTT is when I press it, events are being published. All right. So okay. Ben said, if you have time, try setting that input index 1 to a few different types, e.g. press, toggle, switch. All right, let's experiment with that. Now, what I'm going to do is go to, at the moment we've got index 1 is a button. And so the behavior that we're seeing here, as I press this, you can see the publications there, single button press events. I'm going to change from button to, what else was Ben suggesting? Press. Okay. And, oh, hang on. Is that the right thing I was doing? No, I was changing the default input type. That was silly of me. Button, I want to change this index 1 to press. And save. I have no idea what the difference is, so yes, Ben was right, the one below the index. So now I'm going to press it again. Oh, okay, so instead of doing single, it's saying a press, and if I just hold it, then nothing much happens. It just does the single press event. Okay, so with that one, it's not reporting single, double, triple, etc. It's just reporting a press. Now I'm going to change from press to contact, and I think contact is the one that you would normally use for things like dry contact inputs from, I don't know, security sensors or something like that. And open and closed. Here we go. That's cool. So this, you can see it's reporting that it's open because I'm not pressing it. I'll press it in and it says closed, and then let go and it goes open. So what this is doing is reading like a dry contact input. Yeah, you could use that with reading from a read switch or whatever, a motion detector if you wanted to, although that's normally a little bit different. So instead of contact, so Ben said that it's just an event on press, and that might be what you would prefer to do. So if you're not taking advantage of things like multiple button presses, and in your logic all you care about is when someone presses the button, then you could set the type to press, and that's all you'll ever get reported, and it will just immediately report an event when someone presses the button, and it doesn't matter how long they hold it or if they multi-press it or whatever, it'll just report press. So yeah, that could be useful. Now security is a bit of a different situation, but let's just set it to security and see how it behaves with this button plugged into it. This may excuse me, this may misbehave, but let's see. I'm going to press it and see what happens. It's not doing anything. Yeah, I think that's because this is for the security input breakout, and it's a different type of input entirely. It's I think that'll be using an analog input. So switch and back to switch. Yep. All right. Let's see if switch does anything. On, off. So I'm pressing it in and it reports on, let go of it and it reports off. So what you would use this for is not a button like we currently have plugged in. This is what you would use, something like a rocker switch, and like a classic old style light switch where you flick it one way and it turns on, and flick it the other way and it turns off. And what you could do is wire that to this input, and you flick it on and it reports an on event, and you flick it the other way and it reports an off event, which could also be very useful if you're wanting to use traditional style light switches rather than buttons, and you want the user interface of it to make sense, like not have it change state when someone flicks it. In fact, is there a, yeah, so that's the difference. Okay, before I go into that difference, I'll show you toggle, because this will behave, it'll probably actually look like it behaves the same way, although with different things reported, but there is a reason that switch and toggle are different. So I've just changed that to toggle, and if I, what this is doing is reporting the same thing. So it's reporting a toggle event. If I press it, I'm holding it right now and I'll let go, it'll say toggle. And then if I press it in, it says toggle. So what this is doing is it's not reporting an absolute position, it is simply reporting a state change. So if you had a normal, like a traditional light switch connected to this, and you flicked it, it would report toggle because it's a change of state. It's not moving to an explicit position, and then every time you flick it, it's just going to say toggle. So there are circumstances where one is more useful than the other. For example, if you had a multi-way switch, like at two ends of a hallway, and you had traditional toggle switches, like switches that you flick one way or the other, with a the usual way of thinking about light switches is in one position is on and the other position is off. And it can be really confusing if you flick a switch and nothing happens. And so the reason that you would have something like toggle is that you might want to flick a switch at one end of the hallway and turn the light on, and then you go to the other end of the hallway and you flick the other switch and it turns the light off again. So what this allows you to do is have it behave exactly like traditional multi-way switches, and every switch event causes a state change. But sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want the absolute position of the switch to be what controls the event. And if it's in the off position and the light is on, and then you flick the switch to the on position, you don't want anything to happen. And so you need to set it up so that it's intuitive in those sorts of different situations. Right. All right. What am I doing? What am I saying? I was kind of wrapping up, I think. I think it is time to wrap up. What is it? It's 12:20, so I am overtime. Even allowing for my late start, I'm overtime. And yes, I know the 2-hour thing is kind of an arbitrary limit that I imposed on myself, but that's because in the early days, I think there were a couple of times when I did live streams that headed out towards like 3 hours. And if I don't set a limit on myself, I just won't stop. I will keep going and going and going. And I really do need to go and have lunch and be nice to my stomach. Austin says, I have 2 new items coming, a rack fan controller and the WT32SC01 Ethernet PoE, just waiting for JLC PCB to ship. Awesome. I actually have a WT32SC01 board waiting for JLC PCB to ship it as well. What am I showing right now? I'm just wondering if I can... I can't show you my JLC PCB order history because in that same order is actually PCBs for a commercial client, and they're confidential. And the PCB name would actually reveal who the client is, so I need to be careful about that. But just off the capture, it's I'm going to log in. No, I am not a robot. I'm going to log into JLC PCB and see the state of my boards. Order history. They're probably getting close to shipping. Yeah, so just summarizing in terms of what I've shown you with all of this Rack32 firmware, as you've seen with the one that I took out of the bag, I have preloaded the 3.9.1 state monitor firmware on all of the Rack32s that I currently have. So what that means for anyone who buys one of the Rack32s is that if you connect it to Ethernet and power it up, it'll get an address off DHCP, assuming you have DHCP on your network, which most people do, and be ready to be configured. You don't have to install any firmware. You can use that web management interface, and you can configure it for MQTT. You can set up the different inputs, as you can see in here, and all of that sort of thing. And you don't have to load any firmware onto it. If you did want to load any firmware onto it, what you can do, say you wanted to make it work with one of the other firmware options, like reading from smoke detectors or one of those other versions. So what we've got here is the state monitor firmware, which is useful if you're making a light switch controller. It basically just monitors the states of all of the inputs and reports them to MQTT. But there are other firmwares that you can load onto this. So what you could do is go into here and the system, no, view firmware, and you can choose a different binary and upload it through here. And the result is that if you use one of the example firmwares that has a binary release, you never have to compile your own firmware. You can just grab the latest release and upload the file through here, flash it onto your Rack32, and you're ready to go with whatever application you want for it. Now, what was I doing? That's right. So, production progress. It is all done. Yes. So my my board is ready to ship for the conveyor belt, which is the one with the that uses that little ESP32 touchscreen. So 100% complete. Very cool. All right. And it is just waiting to ship. So Austin, it looks like we're in the same position. We have PCBs at JLC PCB waiting to ship, and they're both add-ons for the same ESP32 touchscreen board. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure playing with that. All right. Now, I am going to go and get myself some lunch. And give you a chance to go and get some lunch as well. I think I need to rest my voice. We got there. Thank you very much for helping me out with getting all of that ready. Sorry, I've got to log into something else over here. And what am I doing? There, okay. So, yeah. Thank you very much to Ben for helping me with debugging this, and also for writing all of this firmware in the first place, and Moyne, and Austin and James for their hardware. It's really cool, and everybody else for helping as well and chipping in. Now, a couple of wrap-up questions. So, wrap-up points. Henrik, I will have a look at your 555 thing. I've got that design open in the browser window now, so I will look at that sometime this afternoon. Hopefully we can figure out why your 555s are burning out. I wonder if it's something kind of obscure, like the version you have the 555 comes in so many different versions with different voltage ratings and things. Maybe it's like a CMOS version that will only run up to like 3 volts and you're running it at 5 volts or something. There are things like that, but there are, yeah, well, look, I'll also look at the schematic. Now, the other thing was Mr. Fix at 1952 said, how is the pick and place going? And it is hopefully getting close. Lachlan is continuing to do his big clean out on the factory space. The front room is mostly empty now. And so then I just need to pull up all the old carpet and put in new flooring. And the back factory area where I'm going to build the clean room, a fair bit of the floor space is now totally clear. The thing is that I need it 100% clear before I can paint the floor, and I need to paint the floor before I build the walls and the ceiling for the clean room. So there's going to be a fair bit of work in that before I can get the pick and place machines up and running. But it's getting there. Okay. Oh, and finally, a shout out to Guru. Good to see you back. I know you've had a lot going on in your life over the last quite a while now. But yes, it is good to see you back here. And I hope things are going really well for you. All right, time for me to end it. And time for Freddie to go to bed because it's 2:30 wherever Freddie happens to be. Okay, I really need to go before my voice fails me entirely. See you all. Bye.